The Bad Batch, Episode 10 Retrieval. The Bad Batch finally managed to track down the stolen Marauder thanks to tracing Gonki's binary reference code. This leads them to an Ipsium mine run by the greedy and tyrannical robber baron Mako. And as it turns out, the ship was stolen by a kid by the name of Benny Barrow who works for Mako, hoping that by stealing it, he would then in turn be paid with food and put himself in contention for top earner at the mine. When the Batch themselves do make their way to the mine, they promptly strong-arm the young thief into helping them steal the Marauder back. Benny later mentions that the mine itself was actually once run by the Techno Union during the Clone Wars, at least until it was later nationalized by the Empire after the war's end and Wat Tambor's death, with Mako now being put in charge. Which I did think was a nice little fun fact and backstory, and while it wasn't absolutely necessary, I do always appreciate such little lore tidbits whenever possible, so that's why I'm mentioning this here. The Batch end up staying back to repair the hyperdrive in the loading bay on the Marauder. Meanwhile, Omega tags along with Benny in order to get to the central tower to hack Mako's system to shut down the ray shields. And once there, Omega learns of Benny's difficult situation and reveals to him that Mako has been scamming his workforce the entire time, running the miners underfed on purpose in order to keep them in line due to the restricted food rationing, and rewarding workers with full rations when they perform well, creating a rudimentary power struggle between them from turning on him, all while he secretly rakes in all of the profit for himself. This then leaves Benny to reflect on this newfound information just moments after betraying Omega and turning her into Mako. But ultimately, he soon after realizes that he's made a huge mistake, especially after seeing how nice Omega has already treated him compared to Mako, even giving him her rations despite all of the trouble that he's caused her. And thus, he then decides to expose his greedy boss. Which, by doing so, this then results in everyone turning against Mako, whom he in turn meets his own end with a goofy Disney villain death by falling from a great height into a lava pit. All in a, might I say, rather embarrassing fashion. With the mine now in better hands under new management and everyone earning equal pay, Benny tells the Batch that he now owes them one if they're ever looking for a thief. Which now I'm sure this won't be the last time that we see Benny after he mentions this. And well, to be fair, the Batch do need all the friends that they can get at this point. Benny then ends up bidding the Batch farewell right as they take off in the Marauder and return back to Sid. Overall, I did for sure have a better time with the second part of this story in comparison to the first parter episode, which, was all set up with very little happening. Meanwhile, here we do get a decent infiltration and retrieval mission, as well the whole side story of Benny and all of the abused workers at the mine by Mako. And it might just be me, but I legit did think that he was a Zygerian at first. Or at least a disfigured Zygerian, especially with all of the cybernetic parts that he has. But that was probably because of the whole slaver vibe that he was putting out, which, well, Zygerians are kind of best known for that sort of thing. Regardless, the whole twist of Benny's story that Mako was a scumbag wasn't all that surprising, as the foreshadowing that we do get in his opening appearance was very striking and obvious. Where Benny asks for his water rations and Mako produces a water bottle but proceeds to drink most of it in front of Benny before handing him the remnants, basically mirroring the eventual reveal that he's been keeping the mine's profits for himself and lying about its success to keep his workers impoverished by claiming the Ipsium is degraded. Yeah, not a great look for him at all, and the massive feast we later see Mako indulging in before revealing the miner's tally was even less subtle. And not only further showing us that he's scamming everyone, but that he's an absolute pig too. But the thing is, Mako isn't unique in this sense at all, especially in this era. And he's really only one of many like that in the Empire, which Omega actually points out at the end of this episode. So to get a story where the Bad Batch take on one of these greedy barons outside of the Empire itself was for sure a welcome addition. Moreover, since this was the first time this season, and well, I think even in the entire series, where we do get such a story. So definitely no complaints from me here. My only minor gripes are with some of the dumb moments that are present in this episode, and they're pretty bad. Like for example, that droid deciding to randomly walk into a stack like 10 or 15 seconds before an exhaust cycle. Which, it's exactly as dumb as it sounds like. Or Mako thinking that he can fight off his entire workforce and then basically deciding that he'd rather off himself than offer equal pay to his workers. Which, the writers here really didn't hold back on his goofy cartoon villainy at all. Not only was this ridiculous, but also lazy writing in order to conclude Mako's part in this story, and boy does it show. But aside from this, everything else did work for me. The Batch doing well in their covert infiltration mission inside the mine, and hey, even Omega wasn't bad or annoying here. And I don't know about you, but that's definitely a plus for me. So, not a bad episode at all, and a rather decent wrap-up to this late season two-parter. And that was my take on this episode of The Bad Batch. Let me know what you all thought about the episode in the comments down below, and if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.